She never imagined that a normal morning could destroy everything she believed in. The house was quiet. The kind of quiet that felt safe. She sat at the kitchen table with her phone in one hand and a cup of coffee in the other. Bills were due, and she wanted to check her savings before making payments. It was routine. Something she had done many times before. She opened her banking app. The screen loaded, then her heart dropped. Her savings balance was almost zero. At first, she blinked, sure she was mistaken. She closed the app and opened it again. Same result. The number that once represented years of careful planning was gone. Not slowly spent. Not reduced. Completely drained. Her fingers trembled as she checked the transaction history. One transfer stood out. A large amount, sent late at night to an unfamiliar account. She felt dizzy. Only one person had access to her online banking. Her nephew. Months earlier, he had offered to help her manage digital payments. She trusted him. She had helped raise him when life wasn't kind to his parents. She believed family would never harm her. With shaking hands, she called him. He answered casually. She asked about the money. At first there was silence. Then she heard it. He laughed. Not embarrassed. Not confused. Just amused. He told her the money was gone. He said she was foolish to trust anyone. He said life wasn't fair and she should accept it. Then he hung up. The phone slipped from her hand. She sat there for a long time, staring at nothing. The pain wasn't only financial. It was emotional. The betrayal cut deeper than any loss she had known. Years of savings were meant for security, for medical needs, for peace. Now she had none of it. That afternoon, there was a knock at the door. She almost ignored it. But something about it felt serious. When she opened the door, two strangers stood outside. They showed official badges. Federal agents. They asked her name. Then they asked something she wasn't prepared for. They wanted to speak with her. About her husband. She felt confused and defensive. Her husband was a quiet man, reliable, private. She told them they must be mistaken. They said her nephew's transfer had triggered a larger investigation. They said her husband's name appeared in related financial records. Her chest tightened. As they stepped inside, her husband walked into the room. When he saw them, his face changed. Just for a moment. Enough for her to notice. Fear. In that instant, she understood something terrible was unfolding. The stolen money was only the beginning. That night, the house felt different. It wasn't loud or violent. It was quiet in a way that made her uneasy. She sat on the edge of the bed holding her phone, staring at the last call she had made to her nephew. No reply. No message, nothing. Family wasn't supposed to disappear like this. Her husband moved around the house as if everything were normal. He ate dinner. He watched television. He avoided talking about the money. When she finally asked him what they should do next, he sighed and said she was overreacting. That hurt. She expected anger. Support, at least concern? Instead, he told her to stay calm and not involve anyone else. He said problems like this were better handled quietly. His words stayed with her. The next morning, she went over every detail in her mind. How her nephew had gained access. How easily the money was taken. How quickly he laughed and walked away. It didn't feel like an impulsive mistake. It felt planned. Later that day, she called the bank. The representative confirmed what she already feared. The transfer was authorized using her login details. Legally, it would be hard to reverse. When she hung up, she felt empty. She tried calling her nephew again. This time, he answered. She begged him to explain. She asked why he did it. She reminded him of everything she had done for him. There was no apology. No regret. He told her the money was already spent. He said she wouldn't see a single dollar again. Then he said something that made her chest tighten. He said she should talk to her husband if she wanted answers, before she could ask what that meant. The call ended. That sentence replayed in her head all day. That evening, the federal agents returned. They asked calm but direct questions. About shared accounts. About her husband's income. About business dealings she knew nothing about, she answered honestly. But with growing confusion, when the agents left, she turned to her husband and asked him directly, If there was something she didn't know, he told her she was letting fear control her. He said the agents were probably mistaken. He reminded her how long they had been married, how much they had been through, but he still wouldn't look her in the eyes. That night, she couldn't sleep. She noticed how often he checked his phone, how he stepped outside to take calls, how tense he became when she asked simple questions. Trust, once broken, changes everything. She remembered moments she had ignored over the years. Times when money issues didn't add up. Times when he told her not to worry about finances because he had handled it. Now she wondered what handled really meant. The next morning, she found bank papers in a drawer she had never opened before. The accounts listed weren't familiar. The numbers were large, larger than anything they should have had. Her hands shook as she realized this. It wasn't just about her nephew stealing money. It was about someone else hiding something, someone she shared. A life with as she put the papers back. She heard her husband's car pull into the driveway. Her heart raced. She didn't know whether to confront him or stay silent. One thing was clear, the betrayal didn't start with her nephew, and it didn't end with the stolen savings. By the end of that week, nothing felt stable anymore. The woman moved through her days in a fog, pretending to function while her thoughts raced. Every sound made her tense. Every phone notification made her heart jump. She was waiting for something, even though she didn't know what. Then the call came. The federal agents asked her to come in for a formal meeting. They said it was important. They said it would help clarify things. She knew that meant the truth was no longer avoidable. She sat across from them in a quiet room, hands folded tightly in her lap. They spoke calmly, carefully, as if they knew every word carried weight. They explained that her nephew's transfer wasn't random. It was part of a pattern. They showed her documents. The stolen money had been moved again within hours. It passed through multiple accounts. Some were linked to businesses she had never heard of. Others were linked to a name she recognized all too well. Her husband. At first, she couldn't process it. She shook her head and told him it had to be a coincidence. Her husband worked hard. He followed rules. He wasn't that kind of man. The agents didn't argue. They showed her timelines, transaction histories, signatures that matched. They explained how someone with knowledge of financial systems could hide illegal movement of money for a long time until one mistake exposed everything. Her savings had been that mistake, they told her. The nephew was involved, but not as the mastermind. He was used to move money quickly because family trust made things easier. Less suspicious. Her chest tightened as the words settled in. This wasn't just theft. It was a scheme. When she returned home, the house felt smaller, colder. Her husband wasn't there yet. She sat at the kitchen table and stared at the wall, trying to remember the man she thought she knew. She remembered how he handled all financial decisions, how he insisted she didn't need to worry, how he discouraged questions. She had trusted that evening when he came home. She watched him closely. The way he set his keys down, the way he avoided her eyes, the way he spoke too carefully. She asked him where the money went. He froze, not long enough to admit guilt, but long enough to reveal fear. He told her she was misunderstanding things. He said the agents were twisting facts. He said families get dragged into investigations all the time, but his voice shook. She asked him about the accounts. He said nothing. Silence filled the room, heavy and painful. In that silence, she realized she was sitting with a stranger. Someone who had built a life beside her using secrets as support. That night, the agents returned with more questions. This time, they spoke to both of them. They explained that evidence was mounting. They offered him a chance to cooperate. Her husband listened quietly. He didn't deny it anymore. She watched as years of trust collapsed in front of her. The man she defended, the man she built a life with, was being exposed piece by piece. After the agents left, she went to bed alone. She stared at the ceiling, realizing the betrayal cut deeper than anything her nephew had done. Family stealing money was painful, but a partner hiding the truth? That changed everything. The house had never felt so heavy. After the federal agents left that night, the woman remained seated at the kitchen table, The room was quiet, but her thoughts were loud. Every memory she had shared with her husband replayed in her mind. Now twisted by doubt, when he finally spoke, his voice was low. He told her he never meant for things to go this far. He said he was trying to fix a problem before anyone noticed. He claimed he wanted to protect their future. She asked him a simple question. Protect it from what? He didn't answer right away. She stood up, her legs unsteady, and asked again. This time, she didn't raise her voice. She didn't cry. She just waited. That's when the truth began to surface. He admitted he had been involved in financial activities he didn't fully explain to her. At first, it was small shortcuts, or so he claimed. Moving money to avoid losses. Covering debts quietly. Then it grew. He told her he thought he could control it. The nephew, he admitted, was used because he was trusted. Family connections made things smoother. Less attention. Fewer questions. Hearing that felt like a second betrayal. She realized her nephew hadn't just acted out of greed. He had been following instructions. He had been part of a plan created inside her own home. Her husband said he never expected the transfer to trigger an investigation. He believed no one would notice. He believed family would stay silent. She asked him why he never told her. He said he didn't want to scare her. That answer broke something inside her. She told him fear would have been easier than lies. The next morning, the agents returned. This time, they didn't just ask questions. They brought documents, warrants, evidence collected from multiple sources. They explained the consequences clearly. Cooperation could reduce damage. Silence would make everything worse. Her husband finally agreed to cooperate. Watching him sign papers felt unreal. The man she shared a bed with was now part of a federal investigation. She felt numb. Later that day, the nephew was brought in for questioning as well. She didn't see him, but she was told he admitted his role. Regret came too late. By evening, the house was filled with empty spaces. Her husband was gone, taken in for further questioning. The future they planned together no longer existed. She walked through each room slowly. The photos on the walls felt like memories from another life. She wondered how long she had been living inside a lie. That night, she slept alone, not because she wanted space, but because the truth had taken everything. Still, in the quiet, something unexpected happened. She felt clarity. The fear that once controlled her was fading. She knew cooperating was the right choice. She knew silence would only make her part of the damage. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but she knew one thing. She would no longer protect someone who destroyed her trust. Asterisk. The weeks that followed moved slowly. Yet everything changed. The house felt empty in a way she had never known before. Not just quiet, but hollow. The kind of silence that reminds you of what is missing. Her husband was no longer there. The future they planned together had vanished along with the money. The investigation continued, without her needing to imagine what came next. She cooperated fully. She answered questions honestly. She handed over documents she never thought she would need to share. It was exhausting, but she knew it was the right thing to do. Some of the stolen money was traced. Not all of it could be recovered. That truth hurt more than she expected. Years of saving, gone forever? The idea of starting over at her age felt terrifying. But she reminded herself, that money was not the only thing taken from her. Trust had been stolen first. Friends and relatives began calling. Some offered support. Others asked questions she didn't want to answer. A few blamed her for trusting too easily. She learned quickly who truly cared. She stopped defending anyone, not her nephew, not her husband. Not the lies that once protected her comfort. Letting go was painful, but necessary. She met with counselors and legal advisors. Step by step, she rebuilt structure in her life. Small routines helped. Morning walks. Writing her thoughts down. Cooking meals just for herself. Healing wasn't fast. Some nights, she still woke up replaying conversations in her head. Wondering when she could have noticed the signs. Wondering if things could have been different, but slowly, the guilt faded. She understood something important. Trusting people doesn't make someone weak. Staying silent when the truth is clear does. She chose not to stay silent. The case eventually reached its conclusion. Consequences were faced. She didn't feel relief. She felt closure. There was a difference. The nephew reached out once, asking for forgiveness. She didn't respond. Some doors, once closed, should remain that way. As for her husband, she stopped trying to understand why. Understanding wouldn't change the damage. Acceptance would. Months later, she looked at her life differently. Smaller, yes, but more honest. More real. She learned how to manage her finances herself. She learned to ask questions. She learned to trust her instincts. Most of all, she learned her worth wasn't measured by a bank balance. One evening, as the sun set outside her window, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Not because everything was fixed, but because she had stopped living in denial. Her story wasn't about losing money. It was about surviving. Betrayal. It was about choosing truth over comfort, and about standing up when silence feels easier. She didn't get her old life back, but she built a stronger one.